Only on rare occasions is the silence broken as people wake up. But this breakout remains but a small voice that has not yet swept across the globe. A grand opportunity would be realized if the breakout happened on the global scale, if its driver, the Ice Age challenge, was recognized and accepted. We are far from this. The entire issue remains blocked. Worldwide, life remains blocked thereby. It remains so in spite of some heroic efforts being made to unblock it. The main factor, the Ice Age challenge, is an immense astrophysical challenge for humanity to master. It would impel humanity to create itself a new world that is fit for its living on an ice planet, because that's what the Earth will revert to in roughly 30 years, as the next glaciation cycle begins. At this time, the entire Earth will become uninhabitable by today's standard. We need to prepare for this phase shift. In order for humanity to be able to continue to live on the Earth, with the Earth being an ice planet, humanity needs to create itself a totally new world to live in. A world of vast technological infrastructures built across the tropics that continue to be able to support human existence under the prevailing extremely harsh climate conditions. At the point of the transition, when the sun's radiated energy will become reduced by 70%, the sun will become dimmer and cooler. The new infrastructures that will have to be built need to be up and running at this point, because all areas outside the tropics will become rapidly reclaimed by the cold, ice and snow. These areas thereby become uninhabitable. And all areas within the tropics, as shown here as a pink zone, will become uninhabitable for the lack of water. The evaporation of seawater by the much reduced solar energy becomes so dramatically diminished that 80% less precipitation results. This has been measured in ice core samples from the Greenland ice sheet. The bottom line is that almost the entire world becomes unable to support human life for the next 90,000 years, except in a few isolated places. But we can compensate for all that with technological means. The entire subject of the Ice Age challenge would be common knowledge today around the world if the relevant results of the modern science efforts wouldn't have been buried and purged from the domain of astrophysics, which by the present anti-science effort became a rather dull landscape of mysticism and confusion, and this intentionally so. It is not the purpose of this video, however, to explore the scientific dimension that has been buried, which I have explored in numerous previous videos, but to explore to some degree why the critical science discoveries have been buried and remain buried, and why for many people the actual Ice Age dynamics are far too incredible to be believable. For example, it has been known for several decades already that the climate on Earth oscillates between long periods of terribly cold glacial conditions and brief periods of wonderfully warm interglacial conditions, such as the one that we presently enjoy. Monumental evidence exists that the Sun is a plasma star, powered by interstellar plasma streams, being focused onto it by electromagnetic structures that are dynamically formed by the movement of plasma. When the flow of plasma is strong, the fields are strong, and a dense concentration of plasma is focused onto the Sun, by which the Sun is strongly energetic, as it presently is. Inversely, when the flow is weak, the electromagnetic field structures cannot form that focus interstellar plasma onto the Sun, by which the Sun reverts back to its less energetic default state that corresponds with the ice ages on Earth. This on-off type of changing of states of the Sun can be observed in the small on the Earth, high in the atmosphere, in the form of red sprites. The glowing shapes that form during highly intense plasma flow conditions between the stratosphere and the Earth typically appear above high elevation thunderclouds. These structures are termed red sprites. In rare cases, large and extremely intense sprites have been observed that closely match the geometry of the primer fields, focusing plasma onto the Sun. In the case of the sprites, when the plasma supply is exhausted that forms the structures, the plasma flow diminishes, the magnetic fields that form the structures collapse. Consequently, the structures vanish, as if they had never existed. The sprite structures typically collapse in less than a second. On the cosmic scale, the interglacial high-intensity Sun is similarly created with electromagnetic structures that similarly vanish. They typically collapse after 12,500 years for much the same reasons. The current sprite state or interglacial state of the Sun, with the Sun being in its high-powered mode, is on the fast track to vanishing in 30 years. We see the evidence for it everywhere. We have measured it in space, in ice, on the Earth, and on the Sun itself in sunspot numbers and coronal holes, and so on. The evidence is monumental that the Sun is a variable star and that ice ages are a digital phenomenon that create two incomparable climate conditions on Earth, according to the two states of the Sun. This knowledge that science has provided about our Sun and the universe, and about their effects on the Earth, is likewise monumental. But this extremely critical knowledge is presently blocked and buried with the censorship of silence. It is buried by a new song, sung in science, the song, "We don't do evidence," as was recently stated from the highest levels. Lulled by this song, Society likes to keep on dreaming of the endless interglacial and feels safe in this dreaming with strong confidence in its illusion. Of course, regardless of the world's dreaming, the flipping of the sun in the real universe goes on between its glacial default state and its interglacial high-intensity sprite state. The flipping produces two radically different types of climates on Earth. The ice cores drilled from the Antarctic ice sheet tells us that for 85% of the last 500,000 years, the Earth was an ice planet that is largely uninhabitable, and that for the remaining 15% of the time, the Earth was a warm paradise for easy living, such as we presently have. The ice cores drilled from the Greenland ice sheet tells us that the two types of climates that result are as radically different as night and day, as if they pertained to two different worlds. The ice state is so harsh that the Earth had supported only a sparse population of roughly 1 million people worldwide during the previous ice age. But now, in the present world, in the sprite state of easy living, we have developed us into a 7 billion humanity living on the same Earth. This poses a bit of a problem, because the Ice Age world can support only 1 million people, not 7 billion. This recognition has become critical now that the sun is about to flip back to its default state and the Earth to its ice planet state, both in roughly 30 years. The recognition places the challenge before us to create us an artificial world with large-scale technological infrastructures in which 7 billion or more people can support themselves richly and prosper and develop themselves further. This artificial paradise, operating on an ice planet, is typically possible, and it can be created. It can be created with ease and be created in time. The materials, energy, and technologies for it all exist. But will we do it? With it, we have the brightest future within reach, even in the worst of times, if we care to create this future. The power of the scientific, technological, and the industrial processes is so great that this future can be created well within the 30 years that we have still left, if we get started. We have the potential within our humanity to build us the needed 6,000 new cities for living near the equator, where the solar radiation is the strongest. We can create these cities rent-free and complete with new agricultures and industries attached, all located on artificial lands that do not yet exist, placed afloat onto the seas. But will we do it? Without it, no one will live. By doing nothing, life itself becomes blocked, with a choke point at the end. The present choice is to do nothing. This is the choice because the past to the real world is intentionally blocked with the censorship of silence and related means for numerous reasons. It becomes imperative, therefore, even critically imperative, that the blocking factors become explored in order that they may be overcome.